Imagine exploring France, maybe not just Paris, but two really distinct regions, both shaped profoundly, actually, by one iconic river, the Loire. Today, we're taking a deep dive into, well, the fascinating interplay between these two regions sharing that grand waterway, Central-de-Loire and Pays de la Loire. Our sources for this are some really comprehensive research notes. They get into the cultural, historical, culinary, even the architectural details of both areas. And our mission, it's really to unpack how these two regions, despite sharing this river identity, offer surprisingly distinct experiences,
Mhm.
different cultural personalities, what truly sets them apart, and what intriguing common threads run through them. Hopefully, you'll have some genuine aha moments as we journey through France's heartland and its dynamic western edge. Okay, so let's unpack this. Our nights kick off by describing the Loire River as a lifeline of the region for Centre-Val de Loire. Then for Pays de la Loire, it's called a life source and transport artery. Even those first descriptions, they hint at different relationships, don't they? What strikes you about that subtle difference right away?
It is striking, yeah, how quickly those descriptions diverge. Centre-Val de Loire, it's primarily known for its chateau, right? The river valleys, medieval heritage, royal legacies. It's all about this inland grandeur, a sense of historic permanence. But then, in stark contrast, you have Pays de la Loire. Sure, it also has castles, vineyards, but it's deeply connected to the Atlantic Ocean. That gives it a really distinct maritime spirit.
It's fascinating, isn't it? How one river can define places with such, well, fundamentally different characteristics.
It really is. So, what might it mean for a single river to define such different places, one so focused on, inland royalty and refinement, and the other having this strong maritime feel? What do you think is the biggest driver of that difference?
Well, that's the core question, isn't it? Our notes seem to suggest that while the river is this shared artery, it's their distinct historical paths, and maybe their geographic realities too, that created these fundamentally different identities. For Central, it seems like it was pure royal strategy, at least initially. Right. So to really get how one river defines two such different worlds, let's journey upstream first to Centre Val de Loire. It's pretty clear straight away why it gets described as romantic and refined. Our notes even call it the cradle of the French Renaissance. What was it in the research that really made that description click for you? Was it just the kings and queens or something maybe more nuanced?
Well, absolutely. That cradle of the French Renaissance part really jumps out. Historically, I mean, it was a stronghold of French royalty, right? From about the 10th to the 16th centuries. You think of Joan of Arc launching her campaign in Orleans back in 1429, lifting that English siege. Huge moment. And the French Renaissance really took off here because, well, so many kings chose the Loire Valley for their residences. They brought in Italian artists, architects. Leonardo da Vinci even spent his last years there. But it wasn't all peaceful. This region saw major battles during the 16th century religious wars. And then during the French Revolution, a lot of the chateaux, being symbols of the aristocracy, they were looted or repurposed. Even in World War II, it was a key part of the demi-line, that German defensive line. So yeah, it's noble history, it's agricultural pride, and this kind of artistic spirit, they really define life there.
And when we talk landmarks, Central de Loire is practically synonymous with its chateau. They're just majestic. For anyone familiar with the Loire Valley, the grandeur is legendary. What really speaks to the region's character? Is it the massive scale of Chambord or maybe something subtler, like at Chenonceau?
It's both, I think, but they tell different stories. Chateau de Chambord, for instance,
Mm,
it's just massive, so ornate, a real symbol of raw royal power,
yeah.
you know. But you have Chenonceau, so elegant and uniquely built right over the river on arches, famously built by and for powerful women, which reflects a totally different kind of influence. These aren't just pretty buildings, they're like living history of ambition and art.
Right.
And of course, there are loads of others. Amboise, Villandry with those incredible formal gardens, Blois, Cheverny, and the cities too. Orléans, the historic capital, Joan of Arc, landmarks everywhere. Tours, a real cultural hub, beautiful old town. Balzac was born there. And Chartres, with its famous Gothic cathedral, the stained glass. And Bourges too, great cathedral, medieval timber homes. It's packed.
Our notes called this region the Garden of France. That's such a lovely nickname. What makes it earn that title? Is it just agriculture?
It definitely earns it.
Yeah.
The fertile land, the sheer floral abundance, it's incredible. You see these huge sunflower fields, sprawling vineyards, productive apple orchards everywhere. And the natural world is thriving too. Lots of wild boar, deer, herons are common. It really feels like a place of abundance and natural beauty, a real garden.
And the food sounds just as refined, characterized by elegant, delicate flavors, sort of refined rustic, the notes say. What are some standout tastes we should look for?
Definitely refined rustic, yeah. For wines, you've got Vouvray, Chinon, Sancerre, Parfumé, world famous, often light, crisp whites and some great reds like Chinon. For dishes, Rillette du Tour is this delicious pork spread, often smoother than you find elsewhere. Tarte tatin, of course, that caramelized upside-down apple tart, an absolute classic French dessert.
Oh, tarte tatin, yes.
And you'll find andouillette, which is a distinctive, sometimes quite strong flavored sausage. There's cendre au beurre blanc, that's pike perch, and a beautiful white butter sauce.
Yeah.
Very delicate. And lots of traditional pâtés.
Oh, and you absolutely cannot forget the Saint-Marc de Touraine goat cheese, the one with the straw running through the
Oh,
mouth.
yes, that's the one. Iconic. And the region's been home to some incredible figures. Joan of Arc, obviously, Leonardo da Vinci spending his last years near Amboise, Francois I, the big Renaissance king, and Honoré de Balzac, the novelist. Born in Tours. It really is a cradle for giants.
Hmm.
And our notes also mention cycling the Loire Velo route is really popular. It seems like the landscape itself kind of encourages this sweet way of life.
It really does. And their local sayings just capture that vibe perfectly. Douceur de vivre, the sweet way of life. And ça coule de source, it flows naturally. Which is just perfect for a region defined by its river, isn't it? It really is. But as we follow the Loire downstream, westward the river's story, it takes on a dramatically different tone, doesn't it? Shaping a region that stands in fascinating contrast.
That's exactly right. The shift to Pays de la Loire, it really reveals what our notes call a region of duality. It definitely has those inland agriculture, some royal heritage too, sure.
Yeah.
But it's also profoundly marked by its coastal nautical traditions and, interestingly, modern innovation. Its cultural identity is shaped by the Loire, yes, but just as much by a strong rural pride, artisan traditions, especially down in Vendée and Maine, and a very strong maritime and shipbuilding heritage. You really feel that in Saint-Nazaire and Nantes. And Nantes itself, interestingly, it's quite the hub now. Lots of art, green urbanism, a real youth culture vibe going on.
Historically, this area was more a collection of medieval duchies, right? Like Anjou and Maine. The Plantagenet dynasty came from Anjou. Henry II of England was born in Le Mans, actually. Joan of Arc passed through places like Saumur, too. But then the French Revolution, it left really deep scars here, didn't it? Particularly with the Vendée Wars from 1793 to 1796.
Oh, absolutely. Brutal uprisings.
Yeah, brutal uprisings against the Republic by royalist peasants. Our notes say those memories are still very present in the regional psyche.
They are. It was incredibly divisive and violent.
And then later, the industrial age completely transformed Nantes into a major port shipbuilding center, and Le Mans became an industrial hub. And both Saint-Nazaire and Nantes, because they were key naval and military spots, were heavily bombed during World War II. So what did these kind of contrasting historical impacts tell us about their different identities compared to Saint-Serval?
It speaks volumes, I think. Saint-Serval's history, it feels more like one of royal patronage grand projects. Even through conflicts, things were often repurposed, absorbed. Pays de la Loire's history, especially with the Vendée Wars, it feels much more visceral. It's a story of resistance, profound trauma, and that shapes a kind of deep-seated independence, maybe. You really see this duality reflected in its landmarks, too.
How so? What specific landmarks really show off this blend of history and, well, modernity?
Well, take Nantes. Historic capital of Brittany, technically.
Oh.
It has the Château des Ducs de Bretagne, linking right back to its ducal past. Very grand. But then right there, it also have Les Machines de lait, these massive steampunk-inspired mechanical creatures like the grand elephant that walks around. It's incredibly popular and speaks volumes about its modern, artistic, innovative side.
That elephant is amazing. I've seen pictures.
It really is. Then you've got Le Mans, known for its Roman walls, the beautiful medieval old town, but also, obviously, the iconic 24 Hours of Le Mans racetrack, a huge symbol of industrial skill and speed. Angers has its massive Chateau d'Angers, home to the Apocalypse Tapestry, this incredible medieval masterpiece. Saumur has its lovely Loire-side chateau, strong equestrian traditions. And Saint-Nazaire is that major port and shipyard. That's where the huge Normandy ocean liner was launched back in the day. It's just a remarkable mix of old and new, land and sea.
And the nature here has a different flavor too, right? More coastal, dunes, salt marshes, tidal flats. You mentioned the traditional salt harvesting and ground.
That's the Peloutiers harvesting the fleur de sel.
Yeah.
Very traditional. And there's the famous Green Venice, the Marais Poitevin, a huge marshland area with canals. It's a real mix of ecosystems, very different from upstream.
So it's truly a mix of land and sea. And the food reflects that too, I imagine.
Precisely. You get incredible seafood, oysters, mussels, scallops, especially from places like Marmoutier and the Vendée coast.
Yeah.
Really fresh.
Right.
But then you also have dishes like rillettes, but this time from Le Mans, often a bit chunkier, maybe richer than the tourist version.
Interesting comparison.
Yeah, and beurre de blanc sauce, that buttery white wine sauce, often served with fish, actually originated here. Gâteau nantais, which is a lovely rum-soaked almond cake. Mojettes, these delicious white beans, often served with ham or duck, very comforting. And fouasse, which is a brioche-like bread. And the wines are distinctive too. Muscadet, that dry white from near Nantes, is probably the most famous. Plus you get lovely Anjou rosé and Saumur sparkling wines.
And the people and culture sound just as diverse. Jules Verne, the sci-fi pioneer, born in Nantes, makes sense with the machines de Lille now.
Right, it connects.
Henry II of England tied to Le Mans, and then you have cultural events like Hellfest in Clisson, one of Europe's biggest metal festivals. Sitting alongside La Folle Journée, a major classical music festival, that just shows the incredible range this duality fosters, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And their local sayings, they often reflect this kind of grounded, practical, maybe sometimes challenging spirit, like c'est pas la mer à boire. Literally, it's not the sea to drink, but meaning it's not that hard. It suggests resilience, I think.
Yeah, I like that.
And also, douceur angevine, Angers sweetness, which usually refers to the mild climate and pleasant way of life around Angers. So still some sweetness there too.
So, okay, we've painted this picture of two distinct Frances almost. It's like they're two sides of the same coin, shaped by the same river, yet just so different in their soul. Looking back at the comparisons, what's one takeaway that really surprised you or stood out?
For me, I think it's that contrast in how they handled major historical shifts.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, the French Revolution. In Centreval, you see Chateau repurposed, a pragmatic outcome, maybe. But in Pays de la Loire, it's the Vendée Wars. These brutal uprisings, this visceral scar that, as the notes say, still defines local memory. It just speaks volumes about the different fabrics of these societies.
That's a really powerful contrast.
And even with shared things, like rillettes, that subtle difference between the smoother, maybe more refined roulette de Tours and the chunkier, heartier rillettes from Le Mans. It perfectly encapsulates that broader culinary and cultural divergence.
Yeah, it's like a metaphor in a spread. And the cultural expressions are so varied, too. Centreval still celebrating traditional Renaissance music, folk dancing, while Pays de la Loire embraces modern music, Nantes indie pop hellfest alongside, traditional sea shanties down on the coast.
Exactly.
And the river's influence itself shifts, doesn't it? From nurturing the Garden of France and those royal residences in one place to facilitating maritime trade and heavy industry in the other. It really makes you think, how can such proximity foster such unique identities?
It truly does. I think this deep dive really shows you how geography and history can sculpt these incredibly distinct cultural identities. Even within a relatively small area, gives you a much richer, more nuanced understanding of France, maybe beyond the obvious attractions.
Right.
Lets you appreciate the specific things that made each region really unique.
So we've seen how two regions bound by the same majestic Loire River have forged really unique paths, one sort of embracing its royal, refined past,
The cradle.
and the other blending that noble heritage with a dynamic maritime, even industrial present, that duality you mentioned. As you think about these two fascinating regions, maybe consider this. How can a single natural feature, like a river, be such a unifying force, yet at the same time delineate such incredibly rich and diverse cultural identities? What other geographical features in the world, maybe rivers, mountain ranges, coastlines, carve out such distinct stories on either side? Something to think about. Keep exploring.